Oh my God, the event reviewer who's known for going to bad events went to one of the most disliked Formula One Grand Prix. This ought to be good.
That's it. That's my intro.
Hi, I'm Amanda. You're watching Swell Entertainment, and today we are talking about Miami Grand Prix, but also, mainly because I want to, F1 Academy at the Miami Grand Prix. I don't know if it's necessarily the most hated Grand Prix. I think it's the most disliked US Grand Prix, and usually what people point to, Vegas as well now, but last year was the first year of Vegas. This is now the third year of the Miami Grand Prix, that people point to be like, oh my God, America's ruining this sport. I get it. The US is at least pricing people out of this sport. And this is already a very expensive sport to begin with. Also, I'm still in my hotel room. It is 9 o'clock at night and I'm sunburnt. You guys are physically inside of a lamp to try and make this lighting situation better. This is what we're stuck with.
But first, let me tell you about the sponsor for today's video, Aura. Whether you're like me, you travel a lot, and so you're jumping onto weird Wi-Fis or just being out and about in weird places, or you're trolling some questionable sites for that movie you really want to watch because let's face it, streamers have nothing these days. Aura does the work of keeping you safe online so that you can continue to do whatever you want. Data brokers are making a fortune selling your data to scammers, spammers, and anyone else who may want information about you. Your buying habits, your login information, your full name, your social security number, potentially even your home address. They could be making money off of your information. You could have no idea about it. The thing is that data brokers have to remove your information if you request that they do, but they make it incredibly difficult to do so, and this is one of the ways that Aura can help you. Aura will not only identify the data brokers that are selling your information, but they will submit automatic opt-out requests on your behalf. Maybe you're not worried about your personal information being available online, but this can also help you with limiting the amount of spam that you get. Aura offers a ton of features to help keep you and your family safe, all at one affordable cost, all in one app. Don't wait to see if data brokers are profiting off of your information online. Go to aura.com/swell and get started with a 2-week free trial. Again, that's aura.com/swell, and thank you again to Aura for sponsoring this video.
Before I jump into the bulk of this video, because there's always at least 20 of you, let me make a couple of things very clear. First off, I am a fan of Formula One. I've been a fan for a little over 1.5 years now, and this is my 3rd Grand Prix. This is my 2nd US Grand Prix. Last month, I went to the Japanese Grand Prix. I do not get paid or invited to Grand Prix, but I want to make it abundantly clear. I paid my own way here. I paid for my flight, paid for my hotel, paid for my rental car. I paid for my tickets. I paid for it all. Why do I do that? That's the whole shtick of my channel. You don't invite me, I'm showing up anyway and I'm making a video. Congrats, welcome. Typically I prefer to pay my own way because then I can be completely honest. I want to make that abundantly clear. I'm a variety creator who does commentary, product reviews, event reviews, and media reviews, because what's the point of being self-employed if you can't find ways to make your obsessions, profitable? I should also note there was one thing I was invited to. I was not paid to be there. I was simply given a 1-day ticket in exchange for 8 Instagram story posts, 2 Reels, and 2 TikTok. And that was the Hard Rock Beach Club on Friday. I was invited to that because a bunch of other content creators submitted me to a creator agency when they were asking if anyone was going to be at the Miami Grand Prix. And a bunch of my friends know that I'm just so chill about this sport that they submitted me for it. Tickets this weekend were the Campus Pass, which is the GA, which was when I bought it, about $465, I think. And then I did the Stadium Club add-on because I figured it would be somewhere inside to go into because I know how Miami heat is, okay? And I figured that I would want at least some place to go inside of, and then it would be good to have a spot to at least watch the race from. I fully was under the impression that I could at least see some of the track from the Stadium Club. You really can't, but that was an additional $1,000 for the weekend. If I just sit here and explain why people have not liked the previous 2 Miami Grand Prix, we're going to be here for too long. But I will note that I am very impressed by their ability to tweak and adapt. It is typically fairly small things. For example, in the first Miami Grand Prix, the winners, instead of hats, they got helmets to put on. It looked goofy. Really glad they got rid of that. And then last year, they did an insane opening ceremony that was universally called cringe. Cringe is another person's fun, but this was too much. The drivers were unhappy. Everyone was unhappy. It was not good. This year, there was none of that, okay? Progress, growth. I decided to go to Miami because this was the 2nd round of F1 Academy for 2024. And it's the only round of F1 Academy that's going to be taking place in the US. Last year, it took place at COTA. This year, Miami. Amanda, what is F1 Academy? Oh my God, I'm so glad you asked. F1 Academy is the entirely female, hopefully feeder series for Formula One. Finding the next generation of talent on and off track, F1 Academy is here to champion the next generation of female talent to explore their own motorsport journeys by breaking down barriers to entry on track in the F1 Academy Racing Series, and through grassroots initiatives such as F1 Academy Discover Your Drive, we hope to make motorsport more diverse, inclusive, and accessible. I love this. I love the fact that there is a full female feeder series, okay? This does not detract from F4, F3, F2, any team's driver's academy. The existence of F1 Academy is its own thing, okay? It's just an initiative. It's hopefully a feeder series.
Now, there are officially 5 teams within F1 Academy, each with 3 drivers. We got Roden Motorsport, MP Motorsport, Campos Racing, Art Grand Prix, and Prima Racing. But 10 of the drivers are also being supported by F1 teams this year as well.
I learned about F1 Academy last year actually from one of their drivers, Bianca Bustamante. Bianca showed up on my For You page on TikTok. This year is also cool because this year for F1 Academy, there will actually be super license points awarded. So for those of you that don't understand Formula One, super license points are how you can end up eligible for Formula One. There are other qualifications like being over 18, that's a Max Verstappen rule now, as among other things, but specifically the super license points, you need to have a certain amount in order to qualify. For the top 5 drivers to be getting super license points in F1 Academy is a huge deal. Now that you're a little more caught up with F1 Academy, let's get back into the Miami Grand Prix. So Friday, imagine my surprise as someone who is so excited to come out and support F1 Academy and just cheer on these girls for their first practice. Imagine my surprise when I see that their practice starts at 10, parking lots for the venue don't open till 10:30, and we're not even allowed inside the venue until 11:30.
What's frustrating is for this video, I decided I really wanted to focus on F1 Academy because this is the probably only race for F1 Academy I'm going to be able to go to this year. And I already am missing something because they have designed it that way. It feels like Miami doesn't care enough, or that they don't think that they're going to be able to draw enough of a crowd. I don't know. I'm of the opinion that F1 is not advertising F1 Academy nearly enough or even the right way.
And I don't think this was well explained at all. Because a lot of people were like, oh my God, wait, that's why there was no one on the broadcast? Like they were watching the broadcast of free practice and were confused why the stands were empty. Yeah, because they didn't give us the chance to come out and support these drivers in their free practice and show what type of crowd they can bring out. That would have been a really good show of support for F1 Academy to be like, hey, Miami, come on in. F1 Academy is starting. We've got coffee on site. You know, whatever. I don't know. Something. But to have them on track when there's no spectators is annoying as hell. And I was annoyed when they kicked us out in Vegas, but that was for a completely other separate thing. You guys just didn't think the manpower was worth it, is my guess. You didn't think it was worth the cost of having people on site working the venue, and that's why you didn't have spectators there, which, I'm sorry, is insulting to the F1 Academy and the F1 Academy drivers. Just saying, none of us are inside for F1 Academy. I get inside the gates and I book it to the Hard Rock Beach Club. I was told to be there before 1:30 and I got in at like 12 something because the line was so long, and I had to book it across the entire campus because this thing is laid out like a child drew it, frankly, this entire campus. But I got there and I parked it there and I was seemingly the only one there for a while. Now, the Hard Rock Beach Club, like I said, I was only there on Friday. A lot of the flips and things like that I am seeing floating around for like outrage bait are not from Friday, okay? I want to make that abundantly clear because I was in there and it is not worth the money. Now, the cost for a 3-day pass to the beach club was about $17.50 if I'm remembering correctly. I'm not quite sure what the day rate was because I couldn't find that information anymore. They typically like pull things off when you get closer and closer. For comparison, Stadium Club was $1,000. And like I said, the images that are going crazy from here are typically the musical performances that are happening there. Okay, Steve Aoki is who I saw perform while I was there. And the food prices. The food prices of the Hard Rock Beach Club are being touted as the food prices for the entirety of the F1 Miami Grand Prix, which I honestly think that Miami Grand Prix are doing it intentionally at this point. Because did you guys not think it was weird that the only people really posting about these prices were actual influencers inside the space? But I made a video of my experience in the Hard Rock Beach Club, and I share that the food options that were there on Friday, I don't know if there was food available on the thing. I never saw it. I don't think they were doing the deliver food to you situation that is now going viral for the costs. The costs are insane. I'm not gonna pretend that they're not, but this isn't for like fans, really. I'm not to say that there weren't race fans there, but the Hard Rock Beach Club is for like You want the musical experience that is the Miami Grand Prix. You want to be there because you want to see Steve Aoki perform. You want to see these DJs perform. You want to be around influencers, I guess. Or at the very least, you want to look like you have money and that you're having a great time, but you can't afford the Paddock Club.
This section is technically only accessible for the beach club, and there's 2 food trucks over here. There's none inside the actual beach club itself, and then we've got our own little bathroom that's really nice and air conditioned.
Friday, as a race fan, I was fairly disappointed being in the Hard Rock Beach Club. I was especially disappointed when Free Practice 2 did come because I'm parked up by the wall right at turn 11, excited to see these cars rip by, and they don't have any of the commentary playing for F1 Academy. They didn't show any of the track coverage for the Porsche Carrera Cup, which I was really disappointed by because I really enjoyed watching the Porsche Carrera Cup when I was in Japan. And so the fact that they didn't do any coverage of that in the Beach Club is annoying. They had one big screen here. Miami Grand Prix also is a screen problem. I don't care what anyone says. You guys do not have enough screens for how low visibility your seats are and the space of your track is. You should have infinitely more screens. I think where you get away with it is because the stadium itself has a ton of screens because it's a stadium, okay? So if you're in the stadium or you're trying to view track from being high up on the stadium, you're closer to a screen. However, volume, again, the announcer's volume was bad, speaker situation. I just feel like that's something that 3 years in should be remedied at this point. There should be more screens, there should be more speakers. You should have that dialed in at this point. These cars are loud. Your standard speaker volumes are not going to cut it when these cars are ripping through the track. That's just how it is. And then, of course, I was even more annoyed by the end of Free Practice 2 Friday because that's when Steve Aoki came out and started performing, which is partially why I was supposed to be there. They were like, hey, you're there for the musical performances, is literally why I was told I was invited. I filmed that once the F1 Academy was done, and I filmed a little bit of like, oh yeah, look, here's the racing, here's Steve Aoki, look at the F1 Miami pit crew getting caked by Steve Aoki, super cool. Between that and not letting spectators be on site for Free Practice 1 of F1 Academy, it feels disrespectful to F1 Academy. Miami, what are you thinking, okay? I don't know if you guys looked at Jeddah, okay, and thought, oh, well, this is the turnout they had. I even heard Leah Block at one point when she was doing a little interview in the paddock. We'll talk more about the paddock situation in a second. That she was like, oh yeah, no, in Jeddah, there really weren't any fans. And here, there's so many fans. It's really overwhelming. It's really cool, whatever. They clearly did not expect the fan turnout of Miami, which I don't really understand why. Every single country has their own fan culture, whether we like to admit it or not. American fans, we can be scary as hell. It's not a slight to Americans. It's an acknowledgement of the fact that we can go a little too crazy, okay? And so for the Miami Grand Prix, I don't know why you would think that that would be any less the case for F1 Academy when you are expecting and hopefully trying to make a profit on the fan frenzy that comes with F1. Seems like common sense to me. Thought you guys are supposed to be businessmen. What's happening here? Now, this weekend was also a sprint race. I actually like the sprint races. A lot of people don't, but sprint qualifying was that night. Now, as I was leaving Friday and trying to make it back to my rental car at the lot forever, if you're gonna drive, you have to trek, okay? Or pay someone to ride you on a slightly electric bike. But as I was trying to make my way back to my car, I stumbled upon the fact that the F1 Academy paddock and the Porsche Carrera Cup paddock were open. I didn't know that.
So the F1 Academy paddock is totally open. Lola's right over there. It's cool that their paddock is just open, like this is just included in the pass. Charlotte Tilbury is a historic move because first woman-owned company to sponsor.
The paddock itself was open, very cool. There was a couple of the drivers out while I was out there, but like I said, it was late. I had to go get somewhere else, so I started making my way to my car. Didn't really spend a lot of time on there Friday night. Saturday, I wanted to spend way more time, especially before their race.
So like I said yesterday, the paddock is typically open. They have it closed right now because they're getting ready for qualifying at 10:25. But these gates just open now. But even then, like closed to be getting ready to run for qualifying, you still have quite a lot of access, which is crazy. So I will give this to Miami right away, is that just having this setup here as well with Porsche Carrera, the amount of access to drivers is really unprecedented so far for any of their Grand Prix or races that I've been to.
Now, Saturday, F1 Academy had their qualifying session, and there are 2 races for the F1 qualifying. So Saturday, I was in the Stadium Club. Stadium Club is not worth it. I'm sorry. I don't think it is, because what you get is a room, closed, air conditioning, nice, great, really nice break, okay, from the heat, because I apparently am just too Californian. There's a couple little things that are cool in there, okay. Drinks free. I got, waters, sodas, Red Bulls on occasion, regularly, free. Nice. Food is not free there. There's a lot more screens in there. Okay, so it's great to watch the race if you want. The problem is that the commentary can barely hear it in there. And sometimes they had it loud, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes there's just too many people in there. You can't hear what they're saying. What I did like about this is that there was a section that was Stadium Club only, obviously, for seats for the stadium itself. So I was able to go down into the stadium and sit and watch the race inside the stadium, overlooking the F1 hospitality paddock.
It's a Stadium Club viewing area, but it is just the same as everyone else. Which is not a problem in and of itself. Who cares? But I'm not fully understanding what $1,000 gets me for the weekend with Stadium Club, is all I'm saying. Because you really don't get a good view of the track from inside the Stadium Club. You get the screens, but I can also get the same experience from here. And sure, you get the AC. That's really it. You're paying for air conditioning, really. And shorter food and drink lines for one food option.
This is pretty much where I watched every single race and every single event for the rest of the weekend because, like I said, Miami Grand Prix has a screens issue. There are screens in the general admission areas, but it's not an ideal situation. Like I said, the audio situation is bad. So there would be times where I'm like, I want to go see cars on track, and I would go and do that. But then they're gone, and I can see no more. The best case for me to go and see the entirety of this race is to stay in the stadium and watch them there and listen to the commentary from there. The sprint race happens. Max wins, Lando DNFs. Not gonna lie, I was real worried because he also got his pit stop bumbled when I was in Japan, and then in Vegas is when he crashed into the barrier. I'm not gonna lie, I was really worried I was jinxing McLaren while being on track. I just watched the F1 Academy qualifying session in the Stadium Club, but the race itself I watched inside the stadium. Let's talk about the commentary. I have names now, because you guys really pissed me off. Bob Varsha, John Massengale, and Jonathan Green. You guys were so horrifically bad on site for F1 Academy. I think it genuinely set us back at least a year, maybe 2. I'm assuming no one told you guys that you were going to have to be commentating on F1 Academy, or maybe you just thought it would be easy. But you guys were so unenthusiastic and insulting, at sometimes just openly sexist. It was genuinely impressive. Now, I want to make something clear, because already when we've talked about this on Twitter, the people that were on track and there are people who are like, I didn't hear that, you must be hearing things. The broadcast that you guys saw and what was on site were 2 different things. The commentary that we had on site is not the same from the F1 Academy broadcast that you may have been watching. Chloe Chambers, who is supported by Haas in F1 Academy, is from the US, okay? And she had a very good possibility of getting onto the podium, and she ended up getting onto the podium. Fantastic. Congrats to Chloe. They spent a very weird amount of time talking about the fact that she was adopted, which I'm sorry, what does that have to do with her racing? Like, in this moment, there's cars on track. A race is happening. And then sure enough, one of the guys mentioned, one of the announcers mentioned that he is an adoptive parent as well. That's great. I'm not sitting here to knock adoption. I am saying, what does this have to do with the cars on track? Because they were so busy talking about this. They were just like, oh, Abby Pulling crosses the finish line. That's the checkered flag. They nearly missed her winning. They did not understand, how the F1 teams were involved in F1 Academy, which I get you guys not understanding, because a lot of you don't watch F1. You get your F1 content from me the same way you get your TikTok information and things like that from me. If you are commentating a race, you should know how the teams are involved in F1 Academy. The very least, the basic principles of F1 Academy. Now, at this point, I did not hear this, but it's been complained about enough. I know it happened. The audio cut out in the stadium, like I said, as they were heading to the podiums, and it didn't come back until the end of the British National Anthem for Abby, while they were all on podium. And then, obviously, the audio comes back. It's still not good, but whatever. Apparently, Abby committed a cardinal sin, okay, in the eyes of men, even though all drivers, when they take off their helmet after a race, because it's hot as hell in those cars, they take off their helmet, they take off their balaclava, that's not the name, they take that off, they fix their hair. Because of course you do. But apparently, Abby fixing her hair on the way to go into the Jeep, or in the Jeep on the way to the podium, one of the commentators, who I still don't know which one at this point in time, said, I'm trying not to make a sexist comment right now. Sorry? What was that? How about you just don't say that? Marissa from Gridshot, who I talked with and hung out with a lot this Grand Prix, also made a video talking about this and much more in depth on her TikTok. And she talked about how they kept making comments about how Abby does not look her age and she looks much younger than her age, which is weird. What are you doing? How about, oh my God, she looks so excited. She's so happy to be on pole. That must feel good. That must be great. Not, she looks way younger than 21. How about fuck off? God, what is wrong with you? Get women. They were so bored the entire time. That was a great race too. Like there was so, okay. For F1 qualifying after the F1 Academy race, the same announcers said, all right, ladies, time to put your phones away. It's time to watch some racing. If I say what I want to, I'm going to be arrested. Now on Saturday, I kept going back and forth to the F1 Academy paddock to spend way more time there and see the cars getting worked on and all of that. Now, while I was there as well, because at this point in time, I did not know the names of the on-track presenters, okay? But I saw some people from F1 Academy sitting down, like having a break and talking or whatever. And I said, hey, question, do you guys know the name of the person who made the comments about Abby? Got to talking a little bit. Very briefly, and they said that they had not heard the comment, but they were very unhappy with the on-track commentary, okay? And that they had already talked about that with someone at F1, okay? Or at least implied that to me. And they told me that they were very upset when they got their track times and that they did try to fight it. So again, no one can say, oh, well, F1 Academy wanted that. It's very clear that that was the Miami Grand Prix deciding that F1 Academy was just not going to have fans on track for free practice one. At the end of the day, I didn't want to keep them held up any longer, so I kept on walking.
I'm trekking back to my car. I have at least a 30-minute walk ahead of me. I already reapplied sunscreen.
Today is Sunday, race day, yay! Then it was time for the F1 Academy second race, okay? So like I said, Abby won the first race, Dorian got second, Chloe got third. But today for this race, I will give them this. They clearly did get a talking to. They clearly were given a little sheet that had more information about F1 Academy. Point by point by point by point. And you know what? I'll take it. That's progress, okay? They didn't make any weird comments about anyone's families. They didn't, make any comments about people's fixing their hair. Again, certain parts of it I couldn't hear because of the nature of the stadium and how they kept cutting it out. But I haven't seen nearly any complaints the way I did yesterday. My guess is on Laura Winter and maybe Susie Wolf, or even just the entirety of the F1 Academy conglomerate that was there, just marching in and being like, hey, what are you doing? Like a full-on gang pulling up, like putting the fear of God and Tommy Hilfiger pressed white shirts into them. I would love to know what happened. They clearly got a talking to because there was progress made. The enthusiasm I would have liked more of, but it was much more on par of what they did for the actual F1 commentary. So I'll give them that. They were still not very enthusiastic for the checkered flag, but is what it is. Like I said, Abby Fulling got first again.
I messed up while recording, but Dorian Penn got third and Bianca Bustamante got second.
Now before the F1 Academy race though, something happened while I was in the F1 Academy paddock. I want to acknowledge this because I think it's another indication of how F1 Miami failed F1 Academy and how I feel like there just needs to be a better line of communication when you're dealing with something like this. The paddock was open before the race, okay? It's like an hour before the race is supposed to start. Now, already, I think they should have cleared us by this point. The gates should not have been open. The paddock should not have been open for spectators at this point, for safety purposes, because they only have so long to get these cars ready to go, okay? There's things that they have to do that they can only do in a certain amount of time before the race. We should be out at that point. I don't think that spectators should have been in the paddock when they are trying to bring in essentially industrial golf carts through with front wings and tires and the like that are gigantic. At the very least, it's gonna break someone's foot if it drives over them. They are also, again, rolling the cars out. They're pulling the cars back because they have to go to one spot to get all geared up and all this stuff. I wanted to get a clip of me next to Maya's car because I wanted to show you guys for scale how the cars look next to someone like me. I'm 5'2". It's well documented, okay? I know I give from here, I give very tall energy, apparently. I'm tiny. No big deal, trying to get the clip. There's a lot of people. But then I start making my way back around. Now, I want to make something abundantly clear. There are two very clear, massive standouts in F1 Academy. I'm not saying that that's good or bad or a slight to any of the others, okay? But there is just two much more well-known drivers currently in F1 Academy, and that is Bianca Bustamante and Leah Block. Leah Block is driving with the support of Williams for F1 Academy, but she is also the youngest rally driver champion She won last year, 17 years old. Bianca, at the end of the day, acknowledges that she also needs to be a social media marketing powerhouse because there is money and security in being a very marketable driver. I fully think that's why McLaren went with her, okay? And McLaren said, we want Bianca. Not to say that they didn't choose her on her driving abilities, but McLaren loves a marketable driver. I'm not saying that all of the drivers need to have, be self-marketing powerhouses, but I am saying that historically, and looking at the F1 grid currently, okay, there are two very clear examples of drivers who are not performing at their best, one of whom is very marketable and very well liked, and one who is basically an NPC. Hi, Logan. I want to support you. I really do. I need you to give me more. I know there's a weird Florida boy in you somewhere. The NPC, American athlete bit isn't working on me, sorry. But we see the difference between how people speak about him versus how they speak about Daniel Ricciardo. For example, this race as well, I know they talk about Chloe Chambers. Leah Block is also technically her home race because it's the only US race there was. This is also Logan Sargent's home race. Not even just that, he's American. He's from Florida. Do you know how little they did for Logan in Miami? One thing, if that. In Japan, there were shrines to Yuki. There was a Yuki cube. They were so excited to see Yuki race. And then Yuki got points and it was this huge deal, okay? Look at China, okay? And the reverence that there was for Zhou Guanyu. I don't think that you can look at that and then look at Miami, where, again, Logan is from Florida, and not see that same reaction, Logan, and not understand that something is going wrong in how you are personally marketing yourself, okay? Again, drivers shouldn't have to market themselves, but that's the reality of the fans and the currency of 2024. It's a very social media industry. We see this with Drive to Survive. We saw the boom that it is. We see this with Lando and Quadrant. We see this with pretty much every other driver and how being either super online or super offline affects their fan bases and how their fans think about them. Sorry for the Logan Sargent tangent. My stream knows my opinions on this. We literally spent a whole stream brainstorming potential sponsors for him. I DM them to you, Logan. You don't even have to reach out to me. But my point is that these two are very big draws, especially here in Miami. People in America love McLaren, okay? So even if they're not familiar with Bianca, they know this is a McLaren driver that they get to get access to. A lot of people are familiar with Leah, okay? They were very excited to see clumps around Leah and Bianca's garages, and they're right next to each other. And then Aurelia Nobles, who is supported by Puma, is on the other side, okay? Now, Aurelia's car was out getting work done, okay? And then they were going to be bringing it back. Now, again, they had started pushing us back. I got stuck behind the Leah crowd. I believe it was her mom, or at the very least someone from her team, came out with a bunch of signed driver cards of Leah and shirts and was handing them out one by one. Now, they had already started trying to push us back at this point, but again, I could physically not move.
Car's coming.
Come on. Okay. Trying. Just physically at hands put on me, so that's fun and exciting.
They were, again, trying to bring Aurelia's car back, okay? And they were just yelling, move, move, move. But someone was physically pushing me on my back into the crowd, telling me to move. And I'm saying, I'm trying. And they're pushing me forward, okay? Now, I want to make it clear. I understand how we got to that point. It is fine. I am fine. I don't like having hands put on me, but it's fine. But I also acknowledge that how bad the situation and how frustrating the situation has to get for anyone in these teams to feel like it has to get to a point where they have no choice but to keep me from getting run over to physically put their hands on me. This should not have happened. They should not have gotten to this point. They should have security. There was tons of security in this area. I don't know how well the communication was going at this point. They should have cleared us out. We should not have been in that paddock area at that point. And again, there needs to be more, just putting up a gate and being like, hey, you guys can't come back this way. That's not enough. They should have been physically walking us this way before cars, before trucks, anything started moving, okay? This point, we should never have been at this point. So it's fine. Everything's fine, okay? But I think that this was, again, a failing on F1 Miami, security, F1 Academy supporting these teams individually, okay, because there was a lot happening. There was also, you know, individual journalists who were doing stories on like Abby Pulling, or there's all these other media obligations.
During this weekend, their docuseries got announced, and so they had filming crews around constantly.
There's everything happening, and again, I think this was just too much, way too fast for the teams individually. So I would not be shocked if for Barcelona, which is the next round of F1 Academy this year, there is a very drastic change, in part and at the request of F1 Academy. This was too much, okay? The access was great, but again, if the access is not contained, if the access is not communicated, controlled, if the teams themselves are uncomfortable and worried about spectators getting run over or anything like that, or feeling like they can't do their jobs properly, access has to be revoked for safety, for security, for etc. Then there was the driver's parade. Then there was, you know, the Red Bull parachute jump.
At its core, I know that Red Bull is a drink company, but I do feel like their mission statement, like their company motto, is just, you know, it'd be super cool. You know what, I'm really bored. Maybe I need a daredevil in my life. Anyone single?
God, I can't believe I have to talk about this guy. Anyways, yes, Trump was at the Miami Grand Prix. He was a guest of McLaren, unfortunately. People are mad about this because Zach Brown openly applauded the FIA for their stance in 2022, where they essentially banned drivers from making political statements. But apparently a former president and current political candidate, it's totally fine for him to walk around, make a speech, and wave around a Make America Great Again hat with the approval of the head of the FIA and Liberty Media and a team CEO. So love that. That's why people are annoyed.
It's time for the Grand Prix. Okay, so for those of you that don't understand what happened, okay, because Lando won, okay, and you're like, oh my God, how did Lando win? Basically, Lando's a G. No, I'm kidding. Lando ended up in pole position, and then there was a safety car. Max was in P2, and I fully expected that Max was going to send it after the safety car. I literally texted my friend. I said, my friend Anarchy, who was watching at home because there was just on screen somewhere that she was at, and she was like, are you just freaking out right now? What's going on? Like, is this what you like doing about this? I'm like, yeah, I'm trembling in my seat. I'm having a blast, okay? I love this sport. I fully expected that Max was just going to turn that rocket ship into hyperdrive and speed past Lando after the safety car. And then he didn't. And then we get the radio message saying that he has no turning abilities, basically.
He'd also driven over like a boundary thing, like literally drove through like a little like plastic pole thing, and apparently it caused some floor damage that may have led to the steering and speed issues and all of that. So, you know, there was like a cause and effect.
So a lot of the complaints about the Miami Grand Prix is, again, the track layout in and of itself. I think that this worked really well in the case of the F1 Academy drivers because, like I said, they have the equivalent of a Formula 4 car, and people were like, oh my God, the speed difference is crazy. Of course there's speed difference. This is a starter series. They're not going from here to F1. They physically can't, okay? They don't have enough super license points. Because the cars are physically smaller and slower, I actually think they have much better maneuverability for this track because there's quite a few corners in this track that most of the F1 cars can't even fully make. It's a bit of a nightmare track in that regard. Lando wins by like a good 4 seconds. Is that what it was? Am I remembering correctly? Logan DNF'd. Williams, I literally was like tagging Williams on Instagram. I was like, what is going on? Because what also happened with Alex with that lockup? Alex is a good driver. This season isn't making it look like that, but like Alex is a good driver. Anyways, that's going to be it. I am excited for the next one of F1 Academy in Barcelona. I am excited to watch Imola from my brother's graduation. I will be at the Indy 500 during the Monaco Grand Prix. Maybe I'll be at the Canadian Grand Prix because a bunch of you guys think I'm Canadian, which is really funny. Still, I'm gonna go shower and cover myself in aloe vera before my flight in the morning. Were you at the Miami Grand Prix? Did you see me and didn't come and say hi? I met a bunch of you guys this weekend, which is very fun. I always love meeting you guys at Grand Prix. This is a really fun part of the Grand Prix experience for me, actually, is meeting you guys. Did you see me and you're like, no, Amanda's smart enough to not get a horrific sunburn. That can't be her. I am smart enough to not get sunburnt. I am just also pale enough for the Florida sun to not care about all of the sunscreen I'm putting on regularly. Did you check out the F1 Academy paddock? Did you watch the F1 Academy broadcast this weekend? What did you think of the commentary for the broadcast itself? Are you guys excited for Barcelona as well? Did you see the race? Are you also excited that Lando got his first win? What's a sponsor you think Logan Sargent should get on his helmet? My personal favorite is Flex Tape. Let me know. Comment down below. Reminder, I stream on Twitch. Reminder that Swell Entertainment is now available on Spotify. Reminder to use code SWELL for 10% off on gamer subs. Shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. If you'd also explore my Patreon, that was down below. Like to my on social media, that'll be all up here. And that's gonna be a have all the day. Goodbye. a lot of the food prices were very much equivalent to, say, literally any other music festival or any other outdoor big event in America, okay? What annoyed me is that there were certain spots where it was basically like a mini little food desert where there was like ice cream and then waters. And then it's like, well, I gotta go hike in this heat to go find food. Why?
Thank you, Oz, Eva, Ayana, Abby, Angel, Goth, Glenn, Palace, Pink, Jasmine, Lauren, Amy, Aslan, Medic, Rosie, Victor, Andrew, Tenzin, Sam, Mae West, Michael, Ryan, Adira, Nathan, Zwink, Literal, Jeffrey, Randy, QWERTY, Nomad, Thomas, Tasha, Donnie, Winter, Kenny, Robert, Cameron, Elliot.